Welcome back to Citrus Valley Buzz, everybody. I'm your host, Chuck Leonard. Now, we have a big election coming up on June 3rd. I have all the candidates coming on today. My guest running for judge, Mr. Steve Smith. Smitty, how are you?
Thanks, Chuck. Thanks for having me. Excuse me. Thanks for having me again.
Yes, nice to have you. Now, how's things going with the race for judge?
Well, you know, we've got one more week left. The election is next Tuesday. So for us, we're kind of bringing it to a wrap. We're focusing on our media campaign. You'll hear our radio ads and our TV ads right now, and our social networking's kind of getting a little bit more buzz. And so that's how we're wrapping up this campaign.
And what are the numbers looking like?
Don't know. Haven't done any polling.
Well, I tell you,
you know something I don't know?
All I know is what I hear around town. I hear Smitty's name a lot. So let's talk about,
in a good way or a bad way.
Well, let's talk about some of both. I mean, I hear some good stuff, and you know there are some other things floating around out there.
Yeah.
So let's go back to how you got to be a lawyer.
All right. So I went to Fresno State, graduated in '85. While I was at Fresno State, I worked for Pete Wilson, and when I was in Washington D.C., that's where it really convinced me that I needed to have an advanced degree, whether it was an MBA, JD, PhD. So that's when I chose to go on to law school. Went to McGeorge up in Sacramento and graduated in '88. So it was really politics that got me over into the law.
And what kind of law did you practice?
Well, I started out doing insurance defense in Oakland, then came back to Fresno in the spring of '89, opened my own office, and I was doing door law, anything that walked in the door. So landlord-tenant, business disputes, divorces, probate, taxation stuff, business corporations, partnerships, so everything that walked in the door. And then I became a little bit more focused on criminal defense in the mid-90s.
Okay, and what kind of criminal defense did you do?
Well, I did everything. I did homicides, I did some capital cases, I did a lot of sexual assaults, I did domestic violence cases, DUIs, batteries, firearm charge, a lot of federal stuff. I tried serious felony cases in at least 6 different counties up and down the state, made court appearances in over half the courts probably in the state throughout the jurisdiction.
Okay.
So a lot of experience.
And then so recently you've been working for?
I work for the Unemployment Insurance Appeals Board. So I closed my office in November of '08, took a position with the Unemployment Insurance Appeals Board. So I'm an administrative law judge right now, and I hear administrative appeals from EDD decisions regarding unemployment, disability, and taxation issues.
Okay. So do you feel that makes you a good candidate, just because of that makes you a good candidate for judge?
Well, first off, as compared to the other candidates, I have as much legal experience as they have. I have as much trial experience as they have. When I was an advocate, I'm the only one that has any judicial experience. Well, Mr. McGill and I both pro-tem'd for a time in the 90s, and at the beginning of about up to 2005 was when they stopped using us.
Which means you'd step in for a judge on his
correct,
day off?
Yeah. So I was like the substitute teacher. I was in there on juvenile dependency, juvenile delinquency cases, small claim cases, and traffic cases. But for the last 5.5 years...
Things that can pretty much get solved right there that day?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, a little, I think, in the court nomenclature, probably a little bit on the low end of the seriousness spectrum. And when you come in as a substitute teacher, too, like that, as a substitute judge, the parties have to agree for you to hear their case.
Right.
So they really want to get you stuff that's really kind of a non-adversarial, not as adversarial. But for the last 5.5 years, I've been doing these administrative hearings, and I do 8 to 25 hearings a day. Wow. Where I'm bringing the parties in right in front of me. I'm taking evidence, I'm ruling on objections, I'm writing written decisions at the end, and we're also subject to federal standard review for both performance and for our decisions. So we're operating under federal timelines, and so that experience, I left my advocate hat off 5 years ago, and I've already been in the courts as a judge for the last 5.5 years. So I'm the most experienced and ready to take over this position, hitting the ground running.
Awesome. Now, you grew up in Fresno.
Grew up here in town. Yeah, I went to Bullard.
You're a Bullard Knight, right?
Yes, I am. Graduated '80, played football and swam there. Yeah.
Yes, and we know a lot of the same people.
I don't claim that.
Yeah. Now, there's been some other things, and we want to talk about them.
Right. Some
things that have been coming up lately, and okay. I always felt like in a race, it's always just best to get things out there.
Yeah, no,
and
it always
so you just want to bring it up yourself?
Well, you know, you had mentioned last time we were talking on the phone, you had mentioned a bankruptcy on my record. I don't have a bankruptcy on my record. I have a foreclosure on my record that happened as a result of changing from private practice to working for the state. I took about a 3-time pay cut, about 300% pay cut to work for the state. And we weren't able to modify our home loan, and we got advice to either go bankruptcy or foreclosure.
Right.
And I'd love to hear his advice. We didn't have any information on a short sale at the time because it was such a new proposition in 2010 as we were going through this. So we took a foreclosure, but we're in the process of buying a new house right now.
Oh, good.
So I can give you information on that as well. I also, when I was a younger man, I had 2 DUIs on my record. One of them was a career changer for me. I got a DUI my senior year of law school, and I'd been hoping to go into the JAG program and become a commander and then go do my 12 years of service with the Navy. But because I was on misdemeanor probation, that went in the tank, and it was a big career changer. And I also got another one in 1997, so I have 2 on my record. One's 17 years old, one's 25 years old. The smartest decision I made, Chuck, was stopping drinking over 5 years ago, and I'm really proud of that decision. But so yeah, I've got those on my record, and what it does is it makes me not judgmental on the bench. I'm somebody that, just like everybody else, who's had foibles and made mistakes, and I've owned up to them and done my penance and moved forward, as we all have.
Well, I appreciate you talking about it. I know it's not easy to talk about, but when other people are talking about it, it's always best to bring out the truth so that it doesn't get muddled.
Right.
So what we're going to do right now is I want you to look in the camera right there, Smitty, and I want you to tell the people of Fresno why they should be voting for you for judge. All
right. Well, I grew up here in town, lived here for 50 years, and grew up in a time here in our community when we didn't have to lock our doors. And while our values have remained the same, our community continues to change. We need compassionate but firm judges who will deal with our rising crime rates, but still understand the complexities of our business community as well as the diverse nature of the citizens that we have here in Fresno County. I worked in Washington, D.C. for Pete Wilson in college, Fresno State graduate as well as a Bullard High School graduate. I'm a McGeorge graduate, came back into town and have served the community faithfully. I love Fresno County and I'm passionate about it. Whether I was coaching moot court or lecturing at City College or coaching youth sports out here in the community, I've shown my commitment to the community. For the last 5.5 years, I've done thousands of hearings dealing with people's rights and their entitlements, and that 5.5 years is what sets me apart from everybody. I'm the local, conservative, experienced candidate. I'm not owned by any of the political parties or the larger parts of the machinery. I am independent, and that's what we want on the bench. We want fair, impartial, independent, as well as studious and exploratory, which I always am. I think I learn something new every day on the job. So next week on Tuesday, I'd appreciate your vote.
All right. Steve Smith running for judge. Steve, thank you very much for coming by.
Congratulations on the baby announcement. I can't wait to see the new girl God's blessed you with.
Thank you very much, man. That means a lot to me. Hey, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. Stick around. Come on, Smitty.